Hi, this is Scott Wilson from Pearson. I will be taking you through the training for the Kentucky Spring 2024 operational testing. We'll start off with a testing overview. So for Spring 2024, we will be testing grades 3 through 8, 10, and 11. We will test reading and math in grades 3 through 8 and 10. We will test social studies, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing in grades 5, 8, and 11. And we will test science in grades 4, 7, and 11. All students will take the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey. Next, we have just some timing guidance, recommended times. You'll see the reading test, 120 to 140 minutes, math, 120 minutes, science, 90 minutes, social studies, 120 minutes, editing mechanics, 45 minutes, on-demand writing, 90 minutes, and the school climate and safety survey, about 20 minutes. Note that these are recommended times, and if you go over these times, TestNav will not shut off on students, even if this time has expired. Some general testing information. Students should complete the test in a single continuous test session per content area. There may be exceptions for students with accommodations. Science, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing only have part A, and they should be tested in one session. Reading, mathematics, social studies have part A and part B, and those may be tested over multiple days. Multiple test sessions may be scheduled each day for each content area. One thing to note, DACs and BACs will have the ability to override part A. So if a student is absent for part A, they come back for part B and you want them to test with the rest of the class, you have the ability to override part A. This information is available if you contact OAA at KDE. Okay, next we're going to touch on some of the important dates. The next few slides have charts with the operational testing dates. It has the dates for Pearson when we're loading Pearson Access next. It has all of the information listed for the DACs and what they need to do. The next slide here has the BAC information, all of the actions that they need to take. Also the technology staff, the test administrators, and students. Okay, now we're going to go into some specific steps to prepare for online testing. For test accommodations, for operational testing, you will have large print and Braille, both available via paper, and text-to-speech will be available online. The paper accommodations, the students will be tested using a test book and a student response book. These kits will be ordered for students in Pearson Access Next via the additional order screen. For human reader accommodation, please refer to the online testing toolbox for more information on this process. For the large print and Braille kits, here's the information that is in each kit. So for large print, you'll have the large print test book, a regular test book, the student response book, rulers, and the accommodation memo. For the UEB or Nemeth Braille kit, you will have the Braille test book, a regular test book, and the student response book, test administration notes, and the accommodation memo. As I mentioned, to order the accommodated kits, you will do that via additional orders in Pearson Access Next. The additional order window opens on March 25th and runs through June 2nd. The last day to order any test materials is May 29th, but you can order return materials until June 2nd. The additional order process is included in the navigational instructions for Pearson Access Next that are located on the Kentucky portal. Or text-to-speech. So for spring 24, the text-to-speech functionality is available. You have different ways to set this up. So KDE is going to provide Pearson a data file. This is the file that will be loaded to PAN before testing window opens. If you can update the data for the district for the students in Infinite Campus by March 15th, with the students that require the TTS accommodations, then that will be included on the student record in the data file that we get from KDE. If it hasn't been updated in that record via Infinite Campus, then the DACs and BACs have two options to add it. The first is you can go into the user interface in Pearson Access Next and add the information, or you can export a file, make the updates to the student records on the file, and then import the file back into Pearson Access Next. So if you have to manually update the student record, you will have to turn on, in order to turn on the text-to-speech, there are two boxes. Those boxes are shown below that must be checked. And again, you can do this through the user interface, or you can download a file and upload a file back into Pearson Access. For the IEP calculator, this is very similar to the text-to-speech. The box shown below will need to be checked for the student to get the IEP calculator. You DACs and BACs can do this the same way. You can go into the user interface and select the box for each student record, or you can export a file, make the changes on the student record, and then import that file back into Pearson Access Next. The Proctor read-aloud process. So for the Proctor read-aloud process, we did create a Proctor testing ticket. so the proctor can sign into TestNav instead of having to read over a student's shoulder or use a paper test book. The administrator will log into into TestNav, I'm sorry, using the Proctor read-aloud testing ticket. There are detailed instructions for this in creating test sessions on the Kentucky portal. Again, it's very important that administrators do not give their Proctor testing ticket to a student. If a student uses the Proctor test ticket to log in, once they submit their test, it will not be scored. So for spring 2024, we did add a couple error messages to prompt the student if they do accidentally log in with a Proctor test ticket. So when a proctor or a student logs in with the Proctor test ticket, this message is going to pop up. And then they'll have to choose one or the other. Are you a student? Yes or no. If it's the proctor, they select no, and TestNav displays the prompt below that says continue to the test. It does remind them your responses will not be saved. If it is a student and they select yes on the first prompt, the first page, that saying they are a student, then they will get this message, which tells them they need to sign out and then sign in with their testing ticket. Okay, next we're going to talk a little bit about the orders and shipment tracking. This is the same as it has been in the past. You'll go to Pearson Access Next, click Setup, click Orders and Shipment Tracking, then click Select Tasks from the dropdown, select Create Edit Orders, and click Start. Once you select Create and Edit Orders, the next page is a screenshot for an additional order. So here's the information you'll put in for the additional order, the date needed, the drop down for a stored contact. You'll enter the items, you'll click Save and click Create. Once the additional order has been entered, you will click Save. Next, we have some information on creating test sessions. You can begin to create test sessions on March 25th. You will need to create test sessions for every grade and content. You also need to create a test session for the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey. Each session will only contain one content area and one grade. For example, you cannot have a session that has some students that have a reading test and other students that have a math test. All students in a session must have the same content. Again, there are detailed instructions for creating test sessions located on the Kentucky portal. So after you create the test sessions, you will have to prepare the sessions. All sessions must be prepared before they can be started. Preparing the session assigns the correct test form to each student. So for example, if grade 4 math has 6 forms, when you click prepare, it randomly assigns those 6 forms to the students in that session. One thing to note, if you have students that need the text-to-speech accommodation, you must add that accommodation to their record before the session is prepared. You can start to prepare your test sessions 1 to 2 weeks before testing. Again, if you go to the Kentucky portal under Creating Test Sessions Guide, you'll find additional instructions on how to do this. Next, we'll talk about the student testing tickets and the seal codes. So each student will have a testing ticket per content area to sign into an online test. Each testing ticket contains the student's unique username and password. The testing tickets, rosters, and seal codes are secure documents and must be in a secure location until the test is administered. Testing tickets and seal codes can be printed at least 1 week prior to testing. If student testing tickets are printed early, they are secure and must be locked in a secure location. Each student will have a testing ticket for each content that they are testing. Remember that testing ticket is unique to each student and each session, so they must be used for the correct session. Also, for the sessions, you will need to print out the seal codes. Seal codes are unique 4-digit numbers that are used to control student access to each test section. For science, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing, there will be 1 seal code. There will be 2 seal codes for reading, math, and social studies. There is no seal code on the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey. For the seal codes, you can write them on a whiteboard so that all students can clearly see what the codes are for each part. Each individual script will inform the proctor when to write the seal codes on the whiteboard. Again, if you go to the Kentucky portal, there is information and detailed instructions on this in Creating Test Sessions Guide. Here is a sample of a student test ticket. It'll have the student name, student ID, the session name. Down at the bottom, you'll see the username and password. Again, that is unique for each student for each content. Here's an example of the seal code sheet. So it will have your session name, the test, the start date, and at the bottom, you'll see the Part A seal code and Part B seal code. So when you get ready to start testing, you have to be sure that all sessions are started in Pearson Access Next. They will need to be started before students can log in to TestNav. You can start sessions 1 at a time, or you can start multiple sessions at the same time. Again, on the Kentucky portal, if you go to the Creating Test Sessions Guide, you'll find information on how to do that. Some more information on sessions and student testing. Be sure that the student testing tickets for each session are kept separate. Every time you hand out a student testing tickets, have the student verify that it is their name that is on the testing ticket. Students will launch the TestNav app from their device. Test administrator will read instructions from the guide-specific scripts. Once the test administrator feels the class is ready to begin, they will write the seal code on the whiteboard. After the TestNav app is launched, they will see a sign-in screen. Students will enter their username and password from the bottom of their test ticket. So here's the icon for the TestNav app. Students will click on that. They will see this sign-in screen for their username and password. And they'll enter it here and click sign in. Once the students start testing, they will see the student honor code. They will have to check the box in order to move forward. After the honor code will be the seal code. Once the students enter the seal code, they will then be able to start testing. One thing to note for grades 5, 8, and 11 for on-demand writing, the seal code is at the bottom of the writer's reference sheet after the student honor code. When students are done testing, make sure they submit their answers and exit out of TestNav. Student transfers and new students. Students that move or transfer into your district or school will need to be tested. Students that transfer either new to the district or school will need to be handled using the work request process. The process involves the DAC from where the student is coming and the DAC from where the student is now residing. The work request process will be in the test administration manual. It is also included on the next slide, and DACs and BACs must monitor the work requests on PAN and approve transfers from other districts. Here is the detailed information on the work request process. If you have a new student that comes outside of Kentucky Public Schools, then the student will need to be added manually to Pearson Access Next. To add a student, they must have a current SSID. To add a new student, you click on Setup, then select Students, then select Tasks, click on Create and Edit Students, and then Start. And here you will enter the information for the student. After the student is entered, they will need to be registered. Since the student is new, they will not have a content already assigned. In this case, you will select the content per the student's grade level. Here is the screen where you enter the information for the new student. Here is the register student screen where you will register the students for a test. All right, contact information. If you have questions, you can contact the Office of Assessment and Accountability at KDE at the number there or the email, or you can call the Pearson Help Desk at the number listed here. Thank you.